Good morning and welcome to Lake Superior Interfaith Community Church. As our name suggests, we are a community which honors many paths to the divine. And to support this vision, we invite a different speaker to share his or her story each week. Today our speaker is Carolyn Sheets, and Carolyn will also be offering our guided meditation. My name is Jasmine Phoenix. I'm a former president and current board member. And while we're giving our credentials, I would like to recognize our accompanist, Carol LSICC, who's also a former president. And so, to begin our time together, I'm going to do a short invocation. And to do this, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes briefly. And in your mind's eye, that very, very fertile place of imagination, I imagine you to distance yourself and observe the planet. Observe the planet from whatever distance is comfortable for you. And in just one moment's time, acknowledge that the planet is a living being, that everything on the planet is living, and that you are a part of this living being. And in your mind's eye, I ask you to stretch out your arms and embrace the planet. And in so doing, you are embracing all of the life, whether it be animal, vegetable, mineral, human, or anything else that contains, or I should say, everything that contains the energy of the divine. Turn your head and lay your cheek on the bosom of the planet for a moment. And without words, express to her your gratitude for all that she is, for all that she provides. And I remind you to include yourself amongst all that is and all that is supported here. And now, slowly return to your own space, the space of your body. Bring your body and your consciousness back to this time and place. And here we are on our planet together, giving thanks to the divine and to one another. And so it is. Amen. Now, if you are back in your bodies, I'm coming back into my body. We have a tradition of greeting one another. And so I would just want to say in this time, if you are not comfortable getting physical, shall we say, with other people, simply remain seated. We'll know that that's your comfort zone. Otherwise, I invite you to take this time to greet one another. So let's go. For those of you at home, we are just getting ready to come back and sing for a bit. All right. Dear folks, you should know better than to sit down right away. You know we're going to sing now. All right, so please get your bones out of the pews. First of all, we're going to sing Let There Be Peace, and then we will move right into our first hymn of the day, which is number 305. Carol? Turn to hymn number 305 in Wings of Song. And now you can sit down for a little while. two things I want to add. First of all is Happy Father's Day to everyone, whatever that means to you. We should acknowledge that. Secondly, I'd like to acknowledge that our president, Carol Carey, is also with us today, but she needs to leave a little bit early, so that's why she's not up here. And Carolyn Sheets has an announcement to do. I'm going to call her up so that I remember to do that.
Okay, this is the deal. This is a songbook that I really like, and it's inspired by Pete Seeger, and it's got oodles of songs in it, and I was showing it to the board, or wanting to show it to the board members, and there's 2 copies and they disappeared somewhere. And I could believe it because they're so vibrant songs that they just wanted to go somewhere. But if anybody knows about them online or in the room with me right now, they have my name on them, so I hope they come back to church. 2 copies. Thank you, everybody.
Well, good morning, everybody. Yay, it's a beautiful sunny day. It's going to be a hot one. Wait till tomorrow, right? For first announcement, always please put your phone on mute or do not disturb so we can have a nice quiet service. We do have our suggestion box at the back of the church, and also you can suggest speakers, ideas, comments, questions, whatever you need to comment or let us know. You can either do that through the box, through the email at interfaith on 9th Street, the number 9th Street, at gmail.com. You can call us and leave a voicemail, or you can contact a board member. And you can always check out the church Facebook page. Yeah, and let us know or give us a comment on our Facebook page. Now, who's speaking next week? That's right, next week is the Unity service. So we will be giving you updates on that. Check out our website, Facebook, and newsletter for any information that you may have missed or want to get. And also, if you missed or would like to rewatch one of our services, please check them out on YouTube. We are on YouTube. One service per month dedicated to Unity, that's next week. Now, the Unity book group that normally meets on Sundays is not going to meet tonight because of Father's Day. But next week, we will be back into our book, Seed of the Soul by Gary Zukav. There we go. So yeah, if you haven't read up with us so far, don't worry about it. We have some fascinating, deep discussions, whether you're up to par with us or coming in for the first time. Donations, if you're interested in making donations to the church, we do have a PayPal account. Check out our website. At the bottom of the website, there is a link to PayPal. You can also mail it in to 1414 East 9th Street, Duluth, Minnesota, 55805, or you can drop it off in person. Come join us for service. Our next fundraiser is going to be our book sale, so keep that in mind. Save those books off your shelf that you're planning to donate to us. Thank you. Consider joining our summer gardening group. Denise has been working hard with other people in the community. Lita, you've been helping out, and Carolyn, have you? No, I know a couple of other people have been helping out. So yeah, we want to make sure our gardens look gorgeous this summer. And we do not have our prayer bowl with us on the podium, but it is right over here. If you have any prayer intentions, you can always physically put a piece of paper into our bowl or mentally put an intention into our bowl. And so at this point, does anyone have any prayer requests? We have the usual prayer for Ukraine, and also prayers for the runners from yesterday that they recover well. I saw some pretty sad faces yesterday. I volunteered at the finish line, and there was a lady who had scraped her face. She had fallen. She said she fell at mile 4. So she was dealing with that the entire rest of the way. So let's hope they all recover well. And don't forget, come and join us for snacks and coffee and sweets every Sunday. And today, are we having a little potluck today? Little little potluck today. Every third Sunday, we're going to try to do some kind of potluck or lunch provided. So come and join us. We got to make our community happy again, so let's eat together. And we will leave it at that.
Thank you, Sue. And of course, the real point of the coffee and refreshments is just to have something to give us a reason to stick around and visit for a while. It's just, and not that we couldn't or wouldn't otherwise, just, you know, the coffee and refreshments just seem to ease that along a little bit. We are going to do some principles now, and we've been using two different sets of principles. Our original principles from the spiritualist tradition, and we also have the principles from Unity. I think that they have pretty much the same intent, so today we're going to use the shorter version, which are the Unity principles. They should be on a piece of paper in your pew. If you need one, there's an extra up here. All right, please read with me. God is the source and creator of all. There is no other enduring power. God is good and present everywhere. We are spiritual beings created in God's image. The Spirit of God lives within each person. Therefore, all people are inherently good. We create our life experiences through our way of thinking. There is power in affirmative prayer, which we believe increases our awareness of God. Knowledge of these spiritual principles is not enough. We must live them. And now I ask you to find hymn number 74 in Wings of Silence. You may remain seated for this song. Then we will move on to Carolyn's portion of the service. We will be hearing her talk and the meditation.
Now, in this space where we are centered, I invite you with your eyes still closed to drop down, first into our hearts and then deep down to the center of the earth. However you feel that, visualize that, or simply know that you are inviting your being to connect with your heart to the center of the earth and breathe into it. As we're breathing with Gaia, our beautiful planet. And now, still holding that, open our hearts and connect to the great mystery, to Creator, Source, to the great heavens. We can become, with our intention, a great spire of light and love in our energetic vertical nature right now. And we can add the great circular nature of the torus, the great donut of rotating energy emanating from our heart and connecting at that level of our body out into the universe. Feeling our love, inviting love. Love beyond understanding, love shining and wider and deeper than we can, I suppose, imagine even. It's mystery. Still holding it and breathing. As if all the parts are breathing together of our own awareness through our heart, as if it is our lungs. Finding whatever degree of willingness we have, that we can be aware of, our willingness to be part of the great cosmic movement toward light, into love, into the divine. We bring our willingness. And then we come back, still with our eyes closed, not leaving this dimensional aspect, yet bringing our attention back into our world, our earth world, our world of our family, our spiritual family, our chosen families, our birth families, our ancestors, all of this earth relatedness. And we find our fathers. We find our fathers in this deep, wild land of consciousness. And we have each of us a father in this life. And perhaps you'll already see a way, or I recommend or suggest bringing the image of our Father in for us and in our heart, in our visual, in whatever way that comes to us, our Father and I, our human Father. Feel the love, feel the pain. They're both there for all of us usually. The poignancy that our Father lived in his life, whether or not he's still on earth. He's had a long life, if he still is. Feel that in whatever way it comes to you, and your own as his child, as his little child, and as his growing and grown child. Here we are with our Father in this immensity of life, which we cannot comprehend. More universes than we know, because they keep expanding. And here we are on earth in this life. Maybe we make amends, maybe we express love, maybe we have compassion, probably all of these for our fathers with us. And ultimately, so much gratitude for their soul showing up to have our soul be their child, to learn together, to grow and love and experience choices. And there's a classic old way that Louise Hay taught many years ago for me on some recording somewhere of seeing our Father as a child, as a young child. And for us in this adult body, to take that dear child in and hold him in our heart, keep him there. To keep learning together and enjoying together whatever comes. And then noting again the center of the earth and the great cosmos that we are part of, and the great torus that moves the energy throughout it all, as far as we understand it so far, or at least as I understand it so far. And then holding and remembering all that, and also being here in our beautiful church in these pews on this lovely morning. with our gratitude and our openness and our questing hearts and minds, we come here and we open our hearts when we're ready again. And that idea of what I call it, having a foot in both worlds. This one is probably not exaggerating, probably more than 100 or 200 times. I've said that to other people, that's my intention. Once I grew into that awareness enough to know that I could have my earth life in this life as Carolyn and still hold the big picture, for which I want to speak a bit about how we can describe it, that big picture, because we know this personal, third-dimensional being reasonably well. And everyone in this, that comes to this church, it seems, I can't say everyone, but most of us, I find, come to it with some greater seeking in learning and knowing of a description of life that is different than we found certainly in the church of my growth, which was a Methodist church. And my story is that in 5th grade, it's very clear to me in my memory, without telling anyone, I resigned from God. It was too heartbreaking to see how much injustice there was. I couldn't bear it. It was in my school with the few Native American kids that were there. It was in our descriptions of everything. I could not bear it. There was nobody to talk to that about, but I said to myself, some of you have heard me say this before probably, I simply realized that I wanted to be like Jesus as well as I could. And I could not abide that God. And that continued until my early 20s, when my own mother, in that mystical way that things can happen, gave me a book from her church reading group at the Methodist Church called The Search for the Truth. And I learned about reincarnation, and I learned about the bigger view that had not been described in my inherited story from the Methodist Church. There was no context for God and Jesus and justice and all the great teachers that have come to the planet. There was no context of that. And I was a changed person. It allowed me to live in a level of peace that I had not been able to conceive of. And in that world, I looked up the word metaphysics, and I looked up meta, which means overarching, or something that is bigger than the usual. So we have metaphysics. Well, physics was a deep description, is a deep description of a lot of how science and matter behave in our three-dimensional world. And a lot of it holds up. We can see it happen. I'm certainly no student of it. However, metaphysics simply takes it to a bigger context. within which that third dimension abides. And I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know, and we'll have different points of view on details, every one of us, I suspect, because there's so many ways we've learned and experienced within ourselves. Because what happened to me when I first read about reincarnation, in the back seat of a car, all snuggled in on a long ride from Madison to my home in Door County in Sturgeon Bay. My husband was driving. I remember the moment it happened, because I had a flood of energy through my body that I'd never experienced before, and a knowing that it was true and that I had, quote unquote, simply forgotten. So in that perspective, in my search, and I encounter then the term metaphysics, we are living in this amazing time on the planet where, again, there are a variety of descriptions. However, what we know is that love prevails to the best of our ability. Our opportunity is to hold and to be love, and to come to life as if our heart is being our eyes and our lungs. That's from one of the teachers I'm following right now, Pam Gregory. However, I really resonate with that exercise. Breathing love, seeing through the eyes of my heart, breathing through my heart as often as I remember, all day long, all the time. Because not only is it our birthright and our opportunity, however, especially at this time, in all the vibrational changes that Earth is going through, as we understand it from a metaphysical point of view, ascending to another dimension. It's our opportunity to be one way of deep service, because love anchors and supports the stability of the planet, making it through this transition. It's a big piece of work. It's a great labor of love. And I remember when I first realized that Gaia was a name that we could use, not just because it was nice to have a name for a planet, but because she was a great soul. So advanced, this is my understanding. Who knows what else everybody else thinks. My understanding, she's a great soul with a body so big it's a planet. And we're part of her. And she's literally our mother. I could feel that. I could take that in. I could bring that into my consciousness. It really doesn't matter how it works, because as dear Lita just reminded us this morning in our little triad over there, we don't really know. And we don't. We don't, except we know whatever we've seen and we've felt in our inner world, and what we've heard from teachers that resonate and that will say it's worthy of my attention to myself. And as I walk along in this life, and I hold that big view and small view at the same time, as well as I can, understanding my daily life through that big picture, I simply realize I'm living a better, more exhilarating life by having this belief than if I weren't. I don't have to prove it. It's okay if it's not true. However, if the world is really based on love, and if we really are ascending, well, I like that. It makes me be motivated, and it gives me way beyond hope. It gives me a sense of knowing, and I no longer need to. This is a really tricky part, a really slippery slope for me and probably for a lot of us. How to hold the pain of the world, the suffering of the algae and the coral reefs and the elephants and the suffering of the air, the suffering of every single other part of life, including all the stones. We now know it's all alive, and it's all responsive to love. We can know that in the way that we sense it, or we believe it, or we want to believe it and act as if it is. So, within this, we can hold the suffering, the grief, the compassion, the longing in response to pain, injustice, horrors beyond conception. How much horror. I have my dear friend who's a great, great empath and a great spiritual student. He can feel every moment. He feels the coral reefs suffering to breathe. Such a deep empath. It's very painful. I'm not like that. However, I know that it's not only about joyful love, it's also about responding to the pain in the world within the big picture for me. So it's not random. I cannot bear a random universe. It's a connected universe. So what metaphysics teaches me is that every person who's been a migrant on a boat, suffering, hungry, wounded, cold, drowning, said, I'll take that life. It's so powerful for me as a soul to have the growth of having an earth life, and I will suffer. This is my choice on a soul level. That's the version I choose to believe. Yet I still owe it compassion and kindness and acknowledgement of the suffering, and let it pass through and keep holding love for the big picture. And then we have, I'm going to shift us now back to earth again, Juneteenth, about racial justice, about slavery, about the horrors that have been perpetrated to set us against each other in races by the color of our skin or the amount of power, wealth, education, whether we were male or female, that has been embedded in this experience of this big picture. And I'm not going to name names. There are a number of names, and I'm one who believes that there has been a great intentional plan to develop corruption and cruelty and prejudice and hierarchy at the expense of some people over others and of humans over nature, that has done this on purpose. And that's part of why Earth is such a big deal right now in metaphysical descriptions, because this is a planet where we've had free will. That's a big piece of metaphysics for me. And so divine will, when a takeover was successful. My understanding is it let it unroll. And now the suffering has been so great, and Gaia going down so far in her loss of capacity to be healthy, so much damage to the earth, that she cried out to the cosmos, to the divine galactic center, to whatever we call it, the mystery, creator, source, God, God, goddess, goddess, God, cried out. And there are enough of us who came here to bring this planet back into the light and arise above the corruption that has purposely enslaved us and purposely brought a hierarchy of white-skinned over dark-skinned, money over the uneducated and of even white skin. That small portion of the planet was encouraged and let loose and developed over generations through ancestral ties to do horrible things. So we're coming through that now. We're throwing that off. In Juneteenth, I did not remember that a year ago, our president, when Biden, made it a national holiday, 2021. So we're on the path as humanity to reckon with the amount of cruelty and unspeakable list of things. Corruption, sabotage at every level. We're on the path. It's our opportunity to engage in our hearts and whatever actions we are each guided. That's how Juneteenth and our fathers fit into this big picture. Our fathers who were traumatized, who were not all good, who some of them were much more wounded than others. For each of us, we have a whole bunch of fathers in this room. I was fortunate, and yet I had a very wounded father. He was an only child at 6 years old when there was a house fire at 6 a.m., and his mother was in the basement, and she died. They were on a farm, and they were out in the country, and he went running through the fields to find help. That's horrifying. This little boy. And at age 12, he was taken in by his aunt and brought up as a brother to his one cousin, so that was a good choice. Mother of his sister's mother, his mother's sister. However, at 12, his father died in a car accident. So he went on to become a great and beloved doctor and surgeon in a little town, the kind where you do everything. You sew on some thumbs, you do the school physical, you deliver babies. One guy came in with his eye in his hand, and Dad put it back in. However, he died at 71 with rheumatoid arthritis that had been raging for at least 10 years. So this great man carried some kind of wound, most likely, from what I know as somebody who works with healing, that things have their origins on some cellular level also. It was a heroic life. It was a life of service. He was good to us. I'm the oldest of 9 kids. They did it on purpose. They knew they could take care of 9 children. We were not wealthy, but we had enough. I'm really lucky. Well, of course I don't believe in luck, because that's very random, right? I'm very fortunate. And I do my best to remember how much I want to give back. Because I was given a great start. So our fathers. Let's see them with all the compassion and love, gratitude, and honesty that we can. And where we need to do our healing work, make amends, or seek deeper, let's do that. Because everything I hear about New Earth is, we gotta be clean. We gotta have done our inner work to help the most. And I'm no expert on how that's gonna work or all the ways, but I do know that V, formerly Eve Ensler, has written an astonishing book about her father called The Apology. And I can't commend it to all of us enough, including me. I've only heard her speak about it a number of times vividly. But she made contact with her father in spirit for healing. And so within the big context, Juneteenth, our fathers, our journey in this lifetime, however we describe it, is all fits in the puzzle pieces. The way I've been fortunate enough to put it together for myself, and I'm going to make it, I'm going to make it be a good life with that version that I have, that I choose about love and healing and caring for every person and every piece of wood that became a pew and every bit of air. We're all in it together. Amen. At the end, Jasmine is going to pass these out, but I don't want you to sit and read them right away, so I'm not going to give them to you till the end. But it's a prayer from the Dalai Lama. And so you'll be getting that. And now I can, oh, this will be great. Thank you, Jasmine, for the water.
I think it is time to call for the offering. So if one or two people would bring forward the baskets, we will thank you for your support. And while you're doing that, it has occurred to me as I was sitting that particularly this morning in light of Carolyn's message, that this would be a good day to revive our tradition of having our little reception line at the back of the church. So when we finish in a few minutes, Carolyn and I will be at the rear of the room, and you may share a hug as you go by if you prefer. And again, if you are more comfortable without the contact, just slip on around us.
And I'm going to take this moment to say, I wanted to say one more thing. And that is that we are open, a couple of us in the church, to have a study group about whatever we want to call it, New Earth. Would be a good working title, possibly, or Our Path There. So let anybody know on the board if that's, and certainly me, because I'm the one that wants to do it. But I'm not the only one. And so that can happen, and it'll be on Zoom. So that would fit well in summer schedules and also open it up to a much wider connectedness. Okay.
Carol, what's our next song, please?
253.
All right, let's rise and sing hymn 253. That's in Wings of Song. I'm going to invite you to come forward and we will form our circle here. And even though I know that it doesn't help a great deal, I just am going to persist in bringing the microphone out here so that people at home can hear us a little bit. And yep, and there we go. Mother, Father, God, we know that we are blessed, but a little reminder doesn't hurt. So please help us to remember every day, even when we feel challenged, please help us to remember that we are blessed, and perhaps most importantly, that knowing that we have those blessings, it is then our responsibility to share those blessings throughout our day and throughout our world. And so it is. Amen. And Carol, if you would.
God be with you till we meet again. By his counsels guide uphold you. On his love securely fold.